All right, I'm Nick. Yesterday I went out and I wanted to film a video about this optic and talk about how it has three different reticles you can select. One being a 2 MOA dot, one being a 2 MOA dot with a 32 MOA circle, and then just a 32 MOA circle. I shot the gun on all three settings, came back inside, was unpacking the gun out of the bag it was in, and when I was outside shooting, I could hear a little rattle. Now, if you're familiar with any polymer gun, sometimes they rattle. All right, which is just this right here. So I could hear this, and I assumed, well, dang, that thing's got quite a bit of wiggle. I was shooting, I didn't put much thought into it. I went through the different reticles, ended up putting 100 rounds to the gun, came inside, unpacked it, and then I touched this red dot to do something, and it's loose. So that noise is the red dot, and you guys can see it wiggling right here. Now remember, this optic was installed from the factory, okay? So you would think that Sig could tighten down these two screws and it would come perfectly torqued. Now I haven't taken it apart. I wanted to do it on video. I don't know if it's thread locked. I don't know how it's installed, right? So I'm going to take it apart. That way we all see it for the first time. Both of the screws were already completely loose, which is just crazy. Now it does appear that has the world's one side of the threads have blue thread lock on there. Just one, I'm talking about one little spot, okay? Maybe you guys can see that on the video. Probably not though. But one tiny little spot with thread lock. They weren't tightened down at all. It looks like on this slide there is one indexing location, which I like. Well, two. There's one on the bottom of this as well. Or maybe that pulled out of there. Hold on a second. Nope. Okay, so that's not built into the optic. So on this slide, there are two indexing points for this optic. So let's slide those back in there. Just kidding. All right, we're in. So that's nice. So that should stop it from moving too much, and that explains why in the video I was still able to hit the target. It just felt like it was very inconsistent. And while I was shooting that video, I mentioned that it felt like the gun wasn't pointing very well. That's because the dot was never in the same spot, right? So I'm presenting the pistol, and every shot, the dot was evidently moving left and right. And 1 or 2 millimeters when you present a pistol is a ton, all right? And then 1 to 2 millimeters at 10, 15 yards, it's just geometry. It just keeps getting wider and further offline the further you go, okay? So I'm going to snug this back up. After watching the video, I went back and I watched the video this morning, and I could hear the gun rattling after the first magazine yesterday, and you could hear it in the video very, very clearly, without any kind of question, that the optic was loose for the whole duration of that video. And that means those screws came loose somewhere after the 200 round mark, which is just crazy. Those things should be torqued from Sig. Now, there's no paint on them from the factory, which is great. I will put indexing marks on those for my reference once I torque it down, and I'm happy with the results. But I usually don't do that stuff until I decide the gun is worthy of being carried. Obviously, I haven't decided it's worthy of being carried, and we've had several problems out of the box, all right? So that's silly. I did reference in a few of the last couple of videos. Initially, it was shooting about an inch to the left, and I adjusted it one click, and it was an inch to the right. And I felt like it didn't group very good. Well, that's because these screws are probably already coming loose, and the optic was probably moving ever so slightly, which means even in the comparison video where I shot a 15 out of 30, those results could be skewed as well. So Things to consider if you do have this and you purchase it Optic ready, I would double check the torque on those. I would torque those down properly so you don't have any issues as well. I'm probably going to add a little bit more Loctite to that because it's just not enough to get the job done, okay? If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. Let me know if you've had any problems.